and another Ax24. These went on sale about Christmas time, $99. They're usually like $160. I was never really thrilled with the first one I picked up. They require a little bit of work to get it to work. They're pretty floppy. This one, I pretty much duplicated what I did on the first one as far as cutting out the battery box to drop everything down, getting the battery sideways. It looks a little dark. Got an MB100 Ninja 50-turn motor. I took a bunch of videos. I don't know if it's worthwhile showing. I decased the receiver, and then I decased the MB100. I have the MB100 servo taped to the top of the receiver, to the edge. I cut all the plugs, soldered directly to the terminals, because this thing sticks up about 3/4 of an inch, quite a ways. This is for future taillights, possibly. I don't know that I'm going to put the Ax24 boat skids back on. Don't really see. It depends on the body I get. And I used Mofo RC chassis rails. It gives you another inch of shock placement. Speaking of shocks, I think it was 2FMRC showing removing the springs and using internal springs. I finally found some of the internal springs. I'll put a link to it, which basically sucks the shocks back up instead of always pushing away. These X24s are really bad going up a hill. The chassis will lift off of the axles and endo, and even side hilling, just constantly unloading. This, doing the internal springs, worked out really slick. So slick I was going to do it to my first one, and I took the shocks apart, and one of the shock shafts rolled off the bench. 2 days later, I still haven't found it. So I may be buying shocks for it. But this thing is so much more stable, it's unbelievable. I do need, these are some CUDA wheels. They offset is really non-existent. They look good with this body. That green anodized, whoops. But I really don't like this body. Functions, that's about it. Cut the windows so I could get to my MB100 switch. I did out a power switch in the back. I'm not sure what I'm doing for lights. I may end up adding some taillights and possibly a headlight or a rock light here someplace by the servo. I'm not sure about that. I cut this window just, I really don't like these blacked out windows. I don't know why they do that. I mean, it's an RC car. It's full of wires and crap. But to me, I don't know what it is. It just is distracting. See it all blacked out. Anyway, that's about as far as I'm going. Like I said, I took a bunch of videos doing this, but again, I don't know that it's worthwhile. Speaking of not being worthwhile, I started working on the course again, which may be a little obvious. This area here in the edge, and the little mini Devil's Tower, it's just there, and I decided that I'd kind of like to do something similar to what I did on the other side. So I took a bunch of scrap foam and made a little mini climb. Actually maneuvering so I can still drive through and around, or whichever way I want to go, but now I can climb this and down. You can go around and come up in between, or do any Devil's Tower. Actually kind of cool, because this area was really kind of pointless. This was the end of the original course, and I was just trying to get it finished, so I didn't really do much. I had some of these old cardboard trays that I smashed up to fill up this whole area, which is kind of fun, but this was just nothing. Anyway. I mean, this literally is chunks of hot glued together. Tomorrow I'll get it primed. See what it looks like. I'm not sure, being this close. And same thing. I think I might do some sand. Fill this notch. When I hot glued these together, this oozed out. I hadn't noticed, and I went back in with a lighter, thought I could melt it, and it shrunk the foam. So I have this V. So anyway, I'm going to fill that with sand. A little bit up here, just to break it up. Anyway, right now I'm trying to pick up all this foam. This stuff is everywhere. And then I'll get back on my Ax24 once I get this primed. I need to do a little weight work. It's really light in the front, so it's almost 50-50. I don't know why, but See if I want to spend money on tires and wheels. It is working though because it's so light. And she doesn't flop over every time you blink an eye, which is kind of cool. Anyway. Later. And painted. Get ready to highlight it. I've shown quite a bit of that. I did mention on the last video when I did the top of that, I wanted to add some bumps to this, which I did. This isn't that steep, except down in the bottom here. When I originally did it, I ended up having to sand it because nothing could get up it. It was just a little too much, which is what these bumps did. So I ended up adding some more texture to help get up and over. But anyway. No attention to detail. I'll highlight it and then I'll add some sand. I'm going to try to drive it before I add the sand because it takes so long for it to dry. I think so. That's cool. Sanded in front of it. Try to build this up a little bit. There's a big hole right here. Cool. And then I have a big hole right here. Stuff keeps hitting this point. Just put some rock in there. Back on the AX. Okay.